This is the book of Exodus, chapter 34, verse 12, and it reads, "Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land whither thou goest, lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee." All praises, all power, all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakaha Kwadash. Yahweh being the name of the Father, who the world even calls God. Yahweh, meaning he exists. Bahashem, meaning in the name. Yahushai, who the world even calls Jesus Christ. His name is Yahushai, meaning he is the deliverer. He saves. Bahashem, in the name. Rakaha Kwadash, Spirit Holy. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach on Wu who taught me this truth. Peace and salutation to the Akyam, the fellow laborers, the hopeful elect, pushing this truth at risk of their own lives through the four corners of the earth. To the Akwathim, listen, learn in sincerity and in truth and in silence. Shalom. Akyam, meaning brothers, Akwathim, meaning sisters, Shalom, meaning peace, be unto you. Right, we'll get right into it. Right, the AI economy, 20-hour work weeks, universal human income. Right, and this came out on the New Zealand Herald yesterday, July 28th, 2023, July 27th, 2023. Different time zones, you know? The hopeful year that all these prophecies come to pass. And it's going into the AI, the UBI. Right, we'll watch it, and Lord willing, we'll attach some scriptures. Let's read this scripture again. Exodus 34, verse 12. And this is Moses instructing the Israelites, right? Let me make sure it's Moses. Yep. Moses. Exodus 34, verse 12, and it reads, "Take heed to thyself," right? Know what you're doing. Walk in wisdom. "Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land whither thou goest," right? Make an agreement with these other nations. "Lest it be for a snare," right? Because you make an agreement with these heathen nations, it's a trap. Snare being trap. "In the midst of thee," right? And this is going into the Israelites at the time coming out of the land of Egypt, right? Primarily, them being surrounded by the nations, primarily the Canaanites, right? But the Lord's making it quite clear. You agree, you get down with these heathen nations. It's a snare and a trap, and it's going to turn your heart being mind, away from the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai, right? And this AI thing, this UBI thing, right? It's a trap, right? Ultimately, these devils, these elites, these international bankers, they want to see hip. They want to see hip. They want to MOTB everybody. Let's watch this.
If AI takes your job, will economies adopt a universal basic income paid to all humans? Well, this economist thinks so.
Basic income. Do you receive it for doing nothing and just sitting by the pool?
Right, and the AI gonna take everyone's jobs, man. Isaiah 19, verse 15. And it reads, Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, spiritual Sodom, which is America. Jobs them go get kicked out. Right? There ain't gonna be no jobs out here in America, the great Babylon the Great. America's gonna be jobless. The citizens are gonna be jobless. Which the head or tail, branch or rush may do, right? Supervisors, managers, supervisors, managers, jobless. Frontline workers, jobless. Service industry, jobless. All levels.
For a cocktail, or is there some obligation to society to do good work in the community, for example?
It's becoming a more likely reality as tech stocks talk up AI adoption in this week's earnings reports.
But it doesn't seem that at the moment it's quite translating, obviously, to the bottom line.
And I have a surprise for you. It's my birthday today, so I'm giving you a gift. Stay tuned to the end to find out how you can be in to win it. It's Friday, the 28th of July, and you're watching Markets with Madison. I was shown the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen this week, and I have to share it with you. This is an orb. It's a biometric testing device that scans your eye's iris. Its purpose is to prove personhood, effectively identify humans from robots. It's created by none other than Sam Altman, the guy behind ChatGPT. His company, Tools for Humanity, has made it as part of the World Coin Project, a master plan that went public this week to eventually pay people a universal basic income in a digital currency when AI takes our jobs. Let me rephrase. A payment simply for being human if you can prove that you are one. People around the world are already lining up to be verified, with one new person every 8 seconds being scanned by the orb. In a statement this week, Altman and his founder Alex Blanier said the payment would be funded by AI, and if successful, could drastically increase economic opportunity. Wild. But they're not the only ones who think we're heading for this kind of future. Salt Funds economist Bevan Graham expects this
scanning your eye, right, to put it in the cloud, right? These devils, all they're doing is preparing people, getting people accustomed, getting people gradualism, right? Getting people comfortable with these new technology and way of doing these things, right? Ultimately, once again, the Revelation 13 verse 16 on down. This is where everything's headed. All roads lead to the MOTB. All roads. 2 Corinthians 2 verse 11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, right? Satan, the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, the physical counterpart being the Edomites, right? They're the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, right? Their technology, their devices. For we are not ignorant of his devices, right? We're not ignorant. We're not lacking knowledge. Listen, the scriptures tell us what Esau is going to do, right? And as watchmen, we're watching for the prophecies and then blowing the trumpet.
This could happen here. Hey, Bevan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, but this is pretty freaky. Do you think that a UBI is inevitable?
Well, it's not absolutely certain that we get there, but look, AI is certainly leading to a massive revolution in the labour force. But look,
and look how simple people are. You offer people money, they're willing to scan their eyeballs. You offer people UBI and they're willing to scan their eyeballs. What more when the sea-hip arrives?
We've seen these revolutions before, Madison, and that there are always transitions happening in the labour market. And look, to a certain extent, we actually need AI to help us out of some of the current economic challenges that we have. We have aging populations, we have a very low rate of productivity growth around the world, and when you combine those two things, if we're going to maintain our current living standards, we need AI to give us that boost. So in the early stages, it's absolutely essential, but certainly there will be a transition then to maybe we do work less. And just in the way that the Industrial Revolution, was the genesis of the 40-hour week, maybe AI is the genesis of the 20-hour week. But you don't need to extrapolate it too far to get to a point where maybe there is more widespread loss of jobs. And in that case, there is a need for some form of a universal basic income. The question is, how is that going to be funded?
Okay, so say that AI does take many services jobs at least. How could a universal basic income be funded? Would it be funded by the productivity gains that AI would bring to companies, and then it would be a higher tax rate the government receives and they would give that back to us? Please explain.
Well, look, that is the big question for policymakers. As we move into this world and AI becomes more pervasive. I mean, there are existing current forms of taxation, but then when you think about it, if there's going to be less people in work, then obviously there's going to be less tax take. So there will be a question then about what other forms of taxation might be required to meet that obligation. And look, we've probably already talked about some of them in the past with various political parties, with various tax policies, wealth taxes, financial transaction taxes, and all that sort of thing. But I think with AI, the big question is, and this is why it's quite exciting about the what you were just explaining, or that evolution, is how do you capture the wealth that's created by AI that used to be captured by wage and salary earners, and how is that then put out into the economy in a way that funds that universal basic income?
So if that's the economics of it, then what would society potentially look like if you or I don't need to work? What, are we just off at a resort having cocktails? I mean, what would that look like?
Well, look, there's certainly more leisure time, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But look, there's going to be a lot of new jobs that come out of this. There are some existing jobs, Madison, that will still be required, and especially those jobs that require a deeper level of reasoning. Good business journalists, economists will still.
Right. And listen, UBI will be attached to the CHIP, man. Right? You want your UBI? You must take this. Isaiah 30, right? And all those that trust in the system, all those that trust in the image of the beast, the image being the system, are going to fall victim to the NWO. Isaiah 30, verse 1. Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord Yahweh. Rebellious children, 2/3 of our people. Right? Israel being a people before its place. You so-called indigenous, you so-called Latino, you so-called Negro, and speckled bird. That take counsel, but not of me. And that cover with the covering, but not of my spirit. Right? Jake out here saying they're Buddhists and they're Hindus and they're Wiccans and they're atheists. Right? Those are all covering casts. Right? They're saying they're everything but Yasharallah, but Israelites. That they may add sin to sin. That walk to go down into Egypt. Right? Egypt, Mizraim, house of bondage. Spiritual Egypt, spiritual Sodom. America. And have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh. Right? They believe in the system. They believe in the government. They believe in the American dream, right? And to trust in the shadow of Egypt, trust in the shadow of Egypt. The philosophy, 2/3 of our people trust in the shadow of Egypt. Two-thirds of the people are going to look at this AI evolution and UBI, the incoming UBI, and be all on board. The CHIP, all on board. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame. The strength of Pharaoh be your shame. Trusting in the system, trusting in America the Great, Babylon the Great's philosophy, man. Look at these people with the serpent piss, man. They trusted in it, right? And a lot of them are dropping dead or having cardiac arrests, right? That's the shame. Isaiah 30 verse 3, therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt, right? The trust in the philosophy of America the Great, Babylon the Great, your confusion, right? When the Lord Yahweh Shemashai pulls the rug out from underneath Babylon the Great, America the Great's legs, right? 2/3 of our people, along with these heathen nations, and Esau, Edom, lower level Esau, Edom, they're going to be scrambling, confused, lost out here, no covering. 2/3 of our people, no covering, lost.
Still need politicians, there'll still be plenty of jobs. There'll still be a lot of jobs out there, but certainly I think we will have more leisure time. I think there is a question too when it comes to a universal basic income, just around the design and exactly how it then mitigates some of the risks around the fact, that we do need to have an incentive to work. There are actually productivity questions that arise from a universal basic income. Do you receive it for doing nothing and just sitting by the pool for a cocktail, or is there some obligation to society to do good work in the community, for example, that qualifies you, for a universal basic? So there are a lot of challenges around what
the CHIP. The CHIP will be attached to this, man. You don't take the CHIP, you don't get UBI.
Design of something like this would actually look like.
And also a UBI, the reason many economies haven't implemented it is because it could be inflationary, right? Everyone effectively gets the same stimulus check consistently. So that's a bit of a risk too, isn't it?
Look, there are already massive fiscal challenges, in the developed world. We're having to meet, governments are having to meet their commitments to climate change and net zero by 2050. We're dealing with the problems of climate change and infrastructure and building more resilient infrastructure. We're dealing with existing inequality problems, and look, all of those have a fiscal implication. And so you add another sort of transfer payment into that, and it does make that very, very challenging. And there will have to be some change in priorities for governments.
Do you think regulation can actually wrap its head around this, though? I mean, Bevan, we still haven't regulated crypto.
Oh, look, and therein lies the biggest challenge, and that is how AI is regulated. And you just mentioned the exact example, and we've talked often about the Wild West of crypto. I think there is a real risk that AI evolves in some way separate to what you might call the existing formal economy, and that it develops almost in parallel, but outside the regulatory environment and the ability of governments to tax, those entities. So again, there is a real issue for public policymakers to ensure that the evolution of AI stays part of the formal economy. The risk is, if you don't do that, you have this buoyant AI economy evolving down one path, but you have the old economy, withering, getting smaller, potentially.
Which is why they'll have to crash this system, right? They'll have to crash it. Zephaniah 1. Zechariah 1, verse 10. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord Yahweh, that there shall be a noise of a cry from the fish gate, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. Howl ye inhabitants of Maktesh. Ancient city of Maktesh was a city of trade, right? Where does all the trading take place today? The stock market, right? For all the merchant people are cut down. The merchant people, the bankers, right? Retail, the stock markets, right? The bankers in the stock markets. All they that bear silver, the bankers, are cut off, right? The Lord's going to crash. The Lord, listen, the Lord's put the spirit on Esau, Edom to crash, right? News is out every day. The BRICS is getting larger, and the greenback is losing more and more value day after day after day. It's all going to crash. Right? And then they're going to bring in the new way of doing things, the new system, which is going to be CBDC, the beginning, which will be the CBDC, right? Which will ultimately lead to the Revelation 13, verse 16 on down, the grain of rice, the CHIP, the MOTB, right? UBI will be attached. Listen, you don't get UBI unless you receive the MARK.
Dying, but that's where the tax bit comes from. So you can't have that separation occurring.
I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know if I should be excited or fearful. How do you feel about it?
Look, I'm not fearful about it because I'm 60, and I'm okay, I think for the rest of my career. But look, jokes aside, look, I think it's something that we need to embrace. The evolution of economies and jobs and industries has been with us forever, and I think this is the next.
And a lot of people are going to embrace the CHIP, man. Right? A lot of people, the whole world. Let's close. Revelation 3, verse 10, and it reads, it's red letter, our Lord said this, Yahweh Shai, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, right? And who's going to keep the word of the Lord? Who's gonna be steadfast in the commandments of Yahweh Shai Shai? The elect, right? Patience meaning to suffer in this truth. I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation. The hour of temptation is the mandate of the CHIP, the Revelation 13 verse 16 on down. The M to the O to the T to the B, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Right, the hour of temptation. Everyone's going to be presented with should I, or should I not? Right? And 2/3 of people are gonna co-sign the beast. Are gonna get down with the beast. Right? So with that, stay prayed up, pray without ceasing. Call Allah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakaha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach well and rule well. Shalom to the hopeful elect.